things suck.
Well, guys, so far, my honest opinion, I'm not impressed. It has terrible steering and no power. Like, watch. So if I put my finger right there, and just barely hold the wheel, you can just stop it. And it has no drag brake, and the throttle is not really smooth, and so without the drag brake, you end up flying off of everything. You can just take it and roll it backwards, you see. So other than looking really nice for the price, you're not really getting a lot of functionality so far that I can tell. Well, as you can see, we've made it back from Beat the Creek where I bought this and gave it a testing, and by the previous video clip, I'm sure you know I wasn't very impressed with my purchase. Now, is that price at $169.99? I did get $30 off because it was a show special, but even then, I still do not think this is really worth that price, and I'm going to go into this a little bit more. Okay, so we got our hard body, and you can see the Velcro already came off the one strip. This Velcro does not hold very well, so that's one thing you need to keep in mind. And the body itself is super chintzy, cheap plastic. I mean, if you hold it up, you're looking at the Velcro through it. You can see so much light through this thing. The idea is cool. I'm glad that they decided to go with a 1/24 scale and a hard body, but I think they should have put a lot more into it, especially for the price, considering the competitors are offering so much more. That broke on the first run, and you can see what I put it through on the first run was not intense at all. It was just kind of some rolling dirt and really easy obstacles. I didn't expect a whole lot out of this truck, being a smaller wheel and smaller performance, but I did expect more than what it gave me. Oh, also the mirror popped off, but that's all right because I'm going to repaint this, because if you can't do anything else, save it with a paint job. Now with our little motor, they do include this second motor, which is what they're calling the N30 micro motor. Now look at that little tiny pinion on it. Even with it zoomed in, that's hard to see. So I'm going to switch that out, and in order to do that, I'm going to have to remove our little motor mount here and then get into it from there. They did make this thing kind of a pain to change the motor into, because you have to remove your motor from the brace. You have to remove, there's two little nylon or little washer deals over this, and that holds the pins for your drive shaft, and you have to push them out with a needle. And then there are screws on both sides of this case in order to split it open to get to the two screws to remove the motor. So there is quite a bit to pull out just to do that. And one other thing, let me zoom in on here real quick. Now, these tires, does anybody see how loose and sloppy these things are? And it's all four of them. You can see them just moving around in there with the nut all the way down. Well, at least from the factory all the way down. I haven't gone through and retightened them myself, but it's every single tire. And you can see that there's a ton of slop on these tires. And then we get to the front, where we've got our pan hard bar and everything. And I think just the amount of slop from the wheels alone is part of my steering problem, but not just that. Watch the arm on the servo right here. So that's just kind of clicking back and forth. And you know, that's how it showed up from the factory. So I'm going to do a little tinkering and take this thing, get it all put out with this new motor, and take it back out again and see if it makes any improvements. I really don't want to talk badly about this thing unless I have to. We already know it. It doesn't stand up to the rest of the 1/24th fleet out there. I mean, even the no-name brand ones will outcrawl this thing any day of the week. But I am going to give it my shot. I'm going to try to tighten these down. I'm going to try to switch this motor out, because there's no drag brake and no power. I mean, if I put my finger here and drive it up against it, the motor will just kind of, sit there and bog down and not do anything. You all know what I'm talking about if you have crawlers where you don't have enough power. When you get to something, your wheels just kind of go, because it's just kind of spinning the motor. But, all right, I'm going to get to working on this, and we'll be back. Okay, I've taken our transmission loose, and it's just two screws right there in the middle. They're little tiny, tiny, tiny baby Phillips heads. So you're going to need a very small one for that. But one thing that I thought was kind of interesting, Look at the motor wire length from the upgraded motor they give you to the stock motor that's in it. And you can see this thing is absolutely tiny. I mean, that's tip of my finger there. So now I have to, back right here it focuses, pull these off and pop these pins out and then start taking this case apart. Okay, you can see. So what I had to do was roll this little O-ring out of the way, which is the same with this one. You just roll it up out of the way. But that is another cause for concern. I am not a big O-ring fan. I'm sure some of you know that because they dry rot. And there's nothing more frustrating than going to get your RC vehicle out and then it's dry rotted. So you got to take a needle and push this pin through a little bit to the other side so you can grab it with a set of needle nose. And there we go. And you can see it's really in there pretty good. I should be using needle nose, but this is what's laying on the bench. Sorry, guys. Let me grab that real quick. Then you just pull your pin out. Put that off to the side. And then your shaft should pull right free. So I'm going to do that to the other side and start taking open the case. Okay, so I've gotten all the screws out of our little transmission. And you are going to need an absolutely tiny, like almost eyeglass screwdriver to get into this last screw. Where is it at? Right there where that hole is, right there. There's a little screw in there. There's one in this corner. And then there's two over here. And this theoretically should allow us to open up the case. There we go, very slowly. And plus side, it is packed full of grease, so that is something. And let's see here. So we maybe pull this little gear out. It doesn't really give you any instructions. All right. So I can see we've got two more little screws here and here. And this should hopefully allow us to get the motor out once those are removed. I'm not sure. As I said, they give you no instructions, which makes it really difficult. I'm going to work on that a little bit off camera because I want to make sure I don't goof anything up on this. It's so small, it's so easy to strip and break things on. Holy cow, guys, when I thought that it couldn't get any more difficult. So we've gotten it out of the case. It was those two screws. You're going to need to slide this gear off of this main drive right here. But look at this. You see all this? I mean, what are we doing? We working on a watch here? What are they thinking? This is not something that a beginner would be very comfortable with at all. I am doing these all the time, and I'm still a little bit uncomfortable with this. These are tiny, tiny little gears. One mistake and you're done. But it looks like the new motor they give you is quite a bit longer can. And it looks like you're going to have to take out this screw and this screw, and all of this is going to come apart, and that makes me very nervous. So I'm going to do that very slowly and very carefully, and wish me luck. So I was successfully able to get it apart. And just look at that. That just blows my mind. It really makes you feel like you're working on a watch. But you can see the difference in these two motors. Now this motor is quite a bit larger, so I'm hoping that this all goes back together nice and smoothly, and that we have better power. Okay, when you are sliding all of this back together, be very mindful on these gears. You see how they have this little ring on the outside of each gear where it sets up against the shaft? It'll be flat on the other side. So make sure you put the ring on the gear facing outwards. Okay, so but it is all working, and I do believe it has more power, but it kind of reminds me of like the old Barrage, because it doesn't have like a smooth throttle response. You kind of go, and then it jumps. But at least this time it is climbing up over something, and it does seem to have a bit of a brake when you let off now. Before it did not. I could just push it, which now the wheels are locked, so that is a good sign. And so that it's not a very smooth response. Like I can't just ease up. I'll show you what I mean. Let me get the trigger up here where you can see it. Like, you should be able to just, like, barely push that and you start moving. See, we haven't even started moving yet. And then when we do, it just goes. So you can't just ease up to something and crawl over it, which is kind of a hindrance for something you're trying to slow crawl. And I'm pretty sure I figured out what this is for. Isn't it to drive nails? I'm pretty sure that's a hammer. But all right, I'm going to get this out to the local crawl spot. If you follow the channel, you know where I'm going. And we'll see if this thing does any better. I really hope it redeems itself a little bit. I still do not think this is very friendly for beginners whatsoever. This is not what I would recommend for somebody's first 1/24th scale crawler. Alright, I hope you can hear me okay over the water here down at the crawl spot. So, this actually made it usable. It definitely needed that second motor. It's not nearly as jerky. Like if you saw in the first section of run videos we did, I couldn't do any of this because my wheels just didn't have enough power. When I pulled up to something, they would just deaden out. So it brings me to the question is, why didn't they just put this motor in it from the beginning? I don't know why they make it an optional thing to do. They should have just put the better motor in from the beginning, you would think, because with it being as small as it is, it's not necessarily that friendly to work on. Man, Rc4 drive's a premium company and they charge premium prices. When we get their products, I kind of expect premium products, you know what I mean? For $170, this little guy should be just as good as an SCX24, if not better. And honestly, you can buy any little RGT or Hobby Park, or there's tons of little off-brands, IMEX, that make these little tiny crawlers for an absolute fraction of this price. You can get them around $100, and they will just outcrawl this thing every day of the week, and they come with nicer electronics. So that's just kind of my thoughts. I mean, obviously you're going to develop your own. I still think it is seriously understeered. That is something I'm going to have to work with, giving a little bit more steering. Plus side, I really like the looks of it. I'm going to have fun painting it. And I think it has potential to be a great little crawler. But right out of the box, if you're wanting to buy something to enjoy going out and crawling with, this probably isn't going to be the best first choice. So that's just my piece. You can form your own opinions. But thanks a lot for watching. Hopefully you found it at least a little bit helpful with the motor swap and everything. And I will catch you on the next video.